All set, great. All right, it is 7 p.m. We will call the April 22nd, 2024 Richmond Zoning Board of Review meeting to order. First matter on our agenda is the approval of minutes from March 25th, 2024. Any issues, or is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March 25th.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, minutes are approved. That brings us to item C, new business. Number one, the application of McDonald's USA LLC for a special use permit of the town of Richmond at 12 Kingston Road, Richmond, Rhode Island. The special use permit would allow the construction of a plus or minus 22-foot square foot building addition to relocate the existing cash booth drive-through window and to stripe one existing parking space to service designated courier parking space for delivery drivers. I understand the applicant or their representation is here remotely.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Dan Allen with Bowler. Here tonight representing McDonald's as the applicant. As mentioned, the scope of
Dan, just to start, we'll swear you in. You promise
okay, sorry about that.
just for the purposes of the record, you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth here this evening, sir?
I do.
Very good. Sorry to cut you off. Go for it.
All good. So McDonald's is their site at 12 Kingstown Road. Here before you for some proposed changes to their existing building. As was mentioned, the kind of scope of this specific application is really limited to the relocation of the cash window and then a striped McDelivery pickup stall. As some of you may recall, actually, am I able to share my screen here? Just give some reference.
I think you are this time if you want to go ahead and try.
Cool. Let's do it. Cool. Okay, great. Is that coming through?
Give me just a second. So he's sharing on my screen, but not on the big one. There we go. I'm so sorry, guys. There we go.
Okay. Yep. So that's coming through now.
Yes.
All right. Great. Yeah, the proposed project, the scope is really limited to the relocation of this cash booth here. Just moving back 10 feet from its current location, as you can see on these elevations. It's just going to be shifted over 10 feet where there's really just an existing landscape bed kind of under a canopy. So that's just shifting over. As some of you may recall, this project came through back in the end of 2022 and was approved in 2023 for kind of the reconfiguration of the drive-through from a single order point to the kind of dual order point that's shown on this plan. McDonald's was looking to move forward with that work at the end of during the fall of last year, kind of coming up on winter, but they also wanted to incorporate this cash booth window. And it was determined by the town that we need to come back through the review processes again for that approval. So they pushed off construction into this year, and it's why we're here before you today. So with this limited scope of work, kind of the intent of pushing this back 10 feet, I think this picture will kind of illustrate it, is kind of remove this, what McDonald's calls a half car syndrome, where these drive-through windows, there isn't enough space in between them to get a car fully coming into the cash window. They make their payment. And then if there's somebody at the present window, they won't be able to pull out of the payment window area fully to allow that car behind them to make their payment. So pushing this back 10 feet will allow that. So between like the two drive-through windows, they'll be able to have 3 cars where really currently today they only have 2. So it's really just an improvement and kind of optimization of their existing drive-through out there. And I think, yeah, that's really the scope of kind of the current this application currently, and happy to open it up for any questions you guys have.
Any questions?
None.
Question. And Dan, what was the restriping? What are you folks planning to do there?
So this restriping, so this kind of sign and striping, it's just a designated MIC delivery stall. So this is where an Uber Eats driver would come in, they'd park and be able to grab the food and then leave. So it's just a designated space, which they've rolled out at all their restaurants.
That's just striping on that. There's no physical construction, correct?
No, just the only thing is just a sign. Just a sign designated as a MIC delivery and pickup.
Any other questions? All right. Any members of the public have questions, comments? All right, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion.
Nope, they're not actually building out, they're just.
This is like moving with
Just moving it down.
yeah, I mean, there's 22 feet plus or minus addition, but I mean, that's nominal, in my opinion.
I think the majority of it's an overhang too.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it's mostly an overhang.
I mean, if anything, they're more efficient in their operations. I personally don't.
I don't see any impact on it.
Anyone want to take a stab at it? The criteria? The wing. Sean?
What is it?
This is the criteria, Bill.
Read the whole thing?
Well, what you'll do is, we'll make findings, you'll propose findings of fact and conclusion of law. So you'll look at each criteria and say, based on what we heard, why you think it fulfills that or not. But this is a pretty straightforward one to try
All right,
that.
I'll just read it, you tell me if I'm reading it wrong.
Well, read it, but then you're gonna say, I'll give you an example. So you make for instance, you make a motion to approve and you'll go through the criteria for a special use permit. One, the proposed use will not substantially or permanently harm the appropriate use of surrounding property. And then you would say why, based on the application, you think that that's accurate. I mean, here, it doesn't seem that there's much of a change from what's pre-existing. It seems, if anything, I made a note that it seems like they're more efficient in their car handling. Mr. Allen told us it was optimization of cars. Why don't you look at these criteria and in your motion, say why you think those are fulfilled or not.
So make the motion first.
Yeah, make a motion to approve
You know, we make a motion to approve the alteration
based on the following findings of
based on the
fact.
following, the proposed use.
Chris, we good with that?
Yeah, I think what might be good, Mr. Brer, is to do this, like you read that first criteria. For the proposed use will not substantially or permanently harm the appropriate use of the surrounding area. And you would say, well, what's the surrounding area? It's commercial, it's in a shopping center, it's already a restaurant, it's already been used for that purpose. Those might be reasons why it supports that it's not really substantially or permanently changing it or injuring it. It's continuing on what's already there. That's just an example.
Right.
And then for each one of those. Real basic stuff. You don't have to get crazy.
Okay, so I'll go A, an applicant for special use permit must demonstrate the satisfaction of the zoning board or review that, one, the proposed use will not substantially or permanently harm the appropriate use of the surrounding property. So yes, it's already a commercial business, been in business for quite a while. Just continuing. Neither the proposed use nor its location on the site will result in conditions that will harm the public health, safety, and welfare. No, there's no issues that would do that.
And you might say that it's seems to be a better optimization of the cars.
Yeah, it's better utilization of the, the drive up, which will help the business, probably make a smoother flow of the traffic. And 3, the proposed use will be in harmony with the general purpose intent of this title. Yeah, which is, there's been no issues with the business that we know of. And we go to B, right?
Yep.
And B, in determining whether the proposed use will satisfy the criteria in subsection A, the zoning board of review may consider, one, the potential environmental effects of the proposed use on the surrounding property and or the town. Yeah, there's no environmental issues with what they propose. Two, the potential impact of the proposed use on traffic circulation and safety. It'll actually help with that. And three, whether the proposed use will generate noise, odor, or other effects that cannot be mitigated by the imposition of conditions or safeguards. No, there's no issues. It's just be continuing what they're doing now.
Right. Great, so we have a motion, Mr. Remy, proposed factual findings and conclusions of law. I'll second that motion. All in favor? Aye. Passes. Mr. Allen, thank you. Good luck.
Great, thank
All
you
right, that
guys.
brings us, thank you, sir, appreciate it. That brings us to under C, new business, our second item of the evening. This is the application of Richard and Barbara Dale for a special use permit at 18 Beaver River Road in Richmond. Special use permit would allow the owners to modify an existing 1,000 square foot accessory dwelling unit to temporarily accommodate a winery tasting room on the main floor of the existing, ADU. The tasting room use will be in addition to the owner's current use of the ADU's 1,000 square foot basement for winery operations, and allow the installation of a handicap ramp to the addition's first floor main entrance, ensuring the addition's first floor restroom meets the state handicapped bathroom requirements, and the installation of a complete fire break wall from the addition's basement to attic to meet any and all fire code standards. Mr. Sudek,
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
how are we?
Good, how are you?
Good.
And I hope members of the board are the same. Stephen Surdit here tonight with the pleasure of representing the applicants who are seated here to my left. We are coming back before you. I know the chair was present for that meeting. I don't know if any of the else of you were. We actually were one of the first COVID meetings that occurred before this board, and we had an opportunity to make a similar presentation regarding the installation of a winery and a tasting room and some interior space. This is I suggest a historic use of the area. Beaver River area has historically been an agricultural area with all different kinds of agricultural uses. And the owner occupant is looking to go back in that direction. So the Dales, who are seated here to my left, live at this premises and have for some time, and this is their baby. They have grown this, started off as a hobby, and it's now grown into a business in their mind. So currently they have a special use permit for the site. So we're coming here tonight to effectively ask to write over that special use permit and to change some of the limitations in that regard. Statutorily, we can't really ask to modify it. We have to ask for a new one. I had that discussion with your zoning official, and I agree with his interpretation of that. So here tonight, we're primarily asking to modify those hours of operation and to modify the interior space and what we can use the interior space in the primary building, which is also the primary residence on the site. So we're not really asked, and it is something that has already been in place and has been allowed by a special use permit for just over 2 years, if not 3 years at this point in time. So I will sort of try to keep it short and easy. I know there's a Bruins game on tonight, and defer to the board in regards to what questions you have, what concerns you have. Currently, that additional space has historically been utilized as a auxiliary dwelling unit by a family member of the Dales. That family member has since passed. So there's going to need to be some modification addressing that, what is essentially the left-hand portion of the picture that's up on your board or in your packet. You can see it as proposed up there now behind the chair. with the handicap ramp, which we would really like to be able to do. The idea is to have an interior space where folks can rest, get away from the bugs or anything else that exists, as we all know in the community, and to taste wine year round. We do not anticipate having any food production or anything like that. It will be just there'll be no sale of food or anything like that. It will just be a wine tasting. Additionally, as was allowed under the prior special use permit, the applicants have also constructed an exterior barn where where more and more of the activity is taking place as they expand. That's currently built out and on the site, as you may have seen if you were able to go to the site. The other primary ask is to expand the hours of operation. Right now, they only operate on weekends and holidays. We're asking to be able to operate during the week from noon to 5 p.m. It's very much in line with other wineries in the area. It is become a bit of a financial and logistical limitation to only be open those 3 days a week, as my clients and the applicant have wound up their operation. That's become now a limitation that they would like to ask permission to be open those 5-hour periods each day. The other request that I have before you is the applicants are looking to have some special events on the site. This is probably more akin to a licensing matter, as they're asking for the right to be able to have more people on the site during that time. I defer to the board and your counsel how you'd like to handle that, if you're willing to address it directly, or maybe provide some insight and if you have any questions or concerns with regard to that, or the chair. Whoever would like to ask any questions or concerns. I also have Mr. Dale here, who has become a wine expert far exceeding what I can tell you about wine and the operation of a winery. So if you have direct questions regarding that, I'll present him as a witness. We can swear him in if the board would like to ask questions in that regard.
I think let's have him sworn in, Steve. I think we just need some sworn testimony. I
Sure.
appreciate the overview, but I think for the record, I do need.
Yeah, we'll go through the elements.
Yeah, if you
Sharing
would,
with that.
just in,
Yeah.
I'd like to hear from Mr. Dale again, in person this time, not. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you. My name is Richard Dale. And-
Do you swear to tell the truth this evening, sir? Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very good. All right, go ahead.
So Mr. Dale, you and I have looked through this application in great detail. You and I went back and forth on it a few times, correct?
We did.
And you have put forth in this application why you believe that the property and the proposed use will not substantially or in any way permanently harm the appropriate use of the surrounding property.
That's true. That is correct.
And you
And
believe.
the arguments for that was in the application.
And you believe the change in hours of operation will not have any change over what's been going on over the last couple of years while you've had this special use permit, correct?
Well, the winery itself has not yet been opened. We are, what we have been doing is, at the time when we came in front of the town for the special use permit the first time around, as I think as Mr. Serta described, this has been an evolution for us, for my wife and I. We started out as Stephen said, as a hobby. It's become more of as turning into a business for us. And quite honestly, we've been learning as we've learned a lot since the last time we were here in front of the board on exactly what a winery is, how a winery operates, especially in the state, and how it operates under a farmer's winery permit, which is the permit that we've obtained from the state. And in order to do that, what we have found is that the amount of hours that we originally proposed in our original application is not really reflective of the business style of small wineries like ourselves. And it's not, it doesn't provide the accessibility to the client base that they would want to be able to come. The hours were extremely limited that we proposed. We're not saying that we're going to be open all of those hours, but what we would like to be able to do is have the flexibility as there is hopefully a growing interest in the winery to be able to expand the hours and to allow clients to come to the winery. So that's the purpose of why we're asking for it.
And you don't believe that the proposed use here, a winery, or we're asking for the small change in its location and layout on the site, with the tasting room being placed inside, taking the place of the auxiliary dwelling unit, will result in any condition that will be harmful to your property, surrounding properties, public health, safety, or welfare?
No, actually, I think it'd be exactly the opposite of that, is that, as Stephen pointed out, it would provide a safe location during inclement weather and during the winter months for individuals to be able to enjoy tasting wine, as opposed to doing it in a more informal setting, or perhaps something that's more exposed to the elements. I think it would provide the experience for customers coming to the winery. It would be a more enhanced experience as well.
Now, when we were here before the board the last time, we addressed concerns regarding parking, safety, accessibility, and those things, because it is, it's a smaller road than Route 1, we'll say, in that regard. You believe that as the property is currently constructed, that there's sufficient parking and the sufficient ability to absorb the customers that you're describing?
We do. When we went to in front of the board the first time, we provided you a diagram of the property that we were proposing to expand, the parking area in front of the winery. We were authorized at that point in time 11 permanent parking spots in front of the winery. We have actually created those 11 spots now. If anybody's driven by the front, you would see. But we also have extra capacity on the property itself to be able to park additional cars. We have our secondary driveway that we have, which we estimate we could park approximately 10 cars on the secondary driveway. And then we also own parcel 20-10, which is the parcel that's linked to the primary parcel, which is 20-9. On that area, there's a large open field at the top of that parcel of property, and we would have overflow parking on the grass on that lot as well. We haven't actually done a calculation of how many cars would comfortably park up there, but I can tell you substantially more than what we currently have now. So for both for the winery itself and also for any special events that we'd have, such as a wedding or something else on the winery, we would have sufficient parking on our property, and we would not allow parking to be done on the street.
And that's an important aspect to you, as you and I have discussed, making sure that there's no impact, cars don't back up to nor park on the road itself, correct?
That is correct. There will not be.
And you'll make that clear to all your
Yeah, we would probably, I believe we talked this over with Stephen at one point in time. We'd probably incorporate that right into if we are doing a special event for somebody coming, we'd have that as an element that's built into the contract.
Would be happy to address any questions or concerns the board has at this time.
Any questions for the applicant?
Out of curiosity, how much wine do you produce?
Well, it's an interesting question. We're allowed to produce under our farmer's winery permit up to 7,500 gallons per year is what we are allowed to produce with grapes that we import from out of state. There's actually technically an unlimited amount that we could produce for grapes that either we grow ourselves or that we purchase within state. Currently, right now, we're approximately, I would say, somewhere around the 700 to 900 gallon range is what we have currently in the tanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a weekend.
So ultimately, you believe your application is in conformance with the goals of the town, the surrounding area, the idea of zoning, that you're kind of doing a little bit of a throwback to the old fashioned and Beaver River agricultural use, and your goal is maybe even to educate some folks on the history of this community and all the vineyards and all the great abilities that we have to cultivate and have boutique agriculture here in Southern.
Yeah, I mean, when we were here at first time in front of the board, we were making the argument and the pitch that's exactly what we were arguing is that we live in a historic, we're just on the fringe actually, if anybody looks, the agricultural district ends right on the property, but we're in the Beaver River Valley. Agriculture is a part of that. I know when prior to us buying the property, it had been the open fields that we currently have grapes growing on right now had been, I believe, a hayfield or something. Yeah, and it was done originally. So in essence, we just really planted another crop on that same area. And I think that we've been very consistent in keeping that agricultural flavor to it. One of the arguments we made back then, I think it's still true to this day, is actual vineyard is very not very intensive agricultural use. In essence, you're not plowing up the land and constantly adding, disturbing the soil. It's a very stable environment. Matter of fact, you want it to be very stable for the moment. So that the answer is, I think, from an environmental and agricultural perspective, it's very consistent. From a winery perspective, we asked and obtained a special use permit on your special use 905, which is a winery on a vineyard. That's what it is. And everything that we're asking in this modification, or if it's a new special use permit, is completely and entirely consistent with that concept. I mean, we're not asking to do anything that you wouldn't see at any kind of a small boutique winery anywhere else that you're going. I'm sure if any of you have gone to boutique wineries, you've noticed that there's always usually some type of small music environment that takes place on that. There's invitations for small special events, bonfires, that type of stuff that goes on with music. And it's also very common to have special events like weddings at a winery. It's people love to be able to take the photographs going down. We've already had a couple weddings on our property. We successfully carried them off on the property that were there. It was not part of the winery at the time when we did that, but we've actually done it twice already. So it's not unheard of for us to have to do it. So I think we can do it well. And I think in both of those examples, I don't speak for the neighbors, but I think that we were pretty good neighbors when we hosted those events. So
What zoning district is this?
it's an R3.
And as far as visitors, so two things, visitors and cars, how many do we expect on a given day?
Well, that's an interesting question. Again, the special use permit, if you read back through the minutes of the original one, we were estimating maybe 25 to 30 at a time on the facility, using upwards of 11 cars that were being parked on the property in front of the winery. The way that I think the zoning board left it last time, and I believe it was captured in the notes, was that if there was an issue that was coming on where there was a feeling that there was too much pressure in the environment, what the zoning board asked us to do at that point in time is to consider establishing a reservation system that people would have to go online, make a reservation and come, which is not unheard of in small boutique wineries. So we would continue to take that approach, depending on. Since we haven't opened the doors yet, we can't tell you exactly interest. But if it did appear to us that it was beginning to become impactful in some way, we would follow what we had originally agreed to do, which was establish a reservation system and manage the flow onto the property through that process.
So as you grow, external from any internal equipment, is there any mechanized equipment you're using on the property that would create any animosity in the neighborhood, or tractors, forklifts, things like that?
Well, again, when we were here last time at the special use permit, if you pull that back up, we were approved for I want to say a 3,600 square foot barn,
Okay.
of which we only built the first phase, which is a 1,200 square foot, what we call the processing portion of the barn. Eventually, the barn would be there's an addition that's going to go onto the side of the barn. That's going to be a 40 by 60 post and beam barn, which will eventually host the tasting room. And that's why in the application today, we're asking for a temporary use of the dwelling that we have until such time as we can get that secondary thing done. So for the most part, all of our operations take place inside
Okay.
the existing barn, with the exception of very, simple equipment. I have a John Deere 2032 tractor. I have a couple, John Deere regular tractors, and that's what we mow it with, and that's the extent of the operation. We don't have clanking machinery going on. We're not existing. There's not a lot of noise emanating from the processes out of it. It's all really contained within the building.
Just curious. Thank you.
Something else we addressed last time is that they really don't use a lot of water. So there's very little to no impact on the well. Unlike beer brewing or distilling, there's almost no water involved in the process.
Really, it's just for cleaning up the tanks. The process itself, the juices, is what's there. That's what you're.
So when you mentioned you had several weddings on the property, where did those guests park their car
On our property.
on the property.
Yeah, and that was before we didn't even, at that point in time, we had on our property, and then one of our neighbors at the time was kind enough to allow us to do overflow parking across the street, and which I think we parked about 25 cars over there. But at that point in time, we had not yet contemplated using our own property up on the top end. If you take a look, there's an open field at the top end of our property. And again, we haven't done the calculation, but we would easily be able to take the overflow, because we would not be having a wedding with 400 people. It'd be a wedding, that we're probably talking about always about the same size, maybe 100, 120 people is probably the max.
And if folks were to park in that area, they have the ability to stay off the road.
Yeah, would you like, I did a quick map if you want to see what
Sure.
we have parking. I don't know if you can. Do you want to put I have a color version.
Yeah, when you do one, well, you can try the color one, but I have one for everybody that's not colored.
Who would you like me to use?
Give it to the chair and after we write this marked as applicants exhibit 1. Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna do this as exhibit 1. I'm gonna give it to you because I only have 1 copy, and then I'll make copies later.
Yeah, I have a bunch of copies.
Oh, okay.
They're just not.
2-page document, I'll mark it exhibit applicants. 1, page 1 and page 2.
I'll take the color copy. They're in order, so if you just take 2 pages and toss it down. They have them.
Did you say how many cars you accommodated at these weddings?
I don't have the exact number because
Even a ballpark, that would help.
yeah, I would imagine we probably had 60 cars on the property, of which 40 at that point in time were parked in my primary driveway, which is, if you're looking at, there's one that says 29. So the one that says 29, that's the one with the structure on it. If you take a look, there's a parking lot, there's a driveway to the left, and there's a driveway in front of the structure that's labeled winery. The driveway to the left, we probably had, I want to say 10 to 15 cars that were in there. And then on the other side, which at that point in time, the barn wasn't there. Everything that you're seeing where the driveway is now, we parked probably about another 35 to 40 cars in that area. And then my next door neighbor took some overflow, but I don't know exactly how many.
Any traffic issues during those weddings?
There was not. I coordinated the wedding ahead of time with the police department, and at that point in time, I know they did a couple of patrols down the road, during the wedding itself, and there was no issues with that. We actually, at that particular wedding, just to make sure there was no issues, we actually had valet parking. So people off the valet guys with the cars. It was very effective that way.
Now, when you're regularly conducting business, and I know you haven't done so yet, but you will obviously in the future, do we expect 60 to be your normal capacity, or is that?
Oh, no, I don't think that's for a special event. You're not
Okay.
gonna get 60 at
You expect that the 11 permanent spots will be.
Would be
for your
sufficient.
Normal operation.
That is our expectation.
Right.
And again, I mean, we're not like going off to Newport Vineyards, which is, a lot more people going. The boutique winery circuit is one in which it's very unusual to see more than 8 or 9 cars in front of a boutique winery. I anticipate maybe at the beginning there might be, because it's new, there might be some people that want to check it out. But it's been my experience and my wife's experience as we've gone to different wineries of that would be our size. That is very unusual to have, like I said, 6 or 8 cars at any given time. If it does become more of an issue, then I think we have a plan.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right, any members of the public wish to speak? All right, come on up.
Hi, my name's Ruth Barrington. I live at 10 Beaver River Road, so we're immediately abutting their property.
Ruth Barrington?
Barrington, just like the town.
I'll just swear you in, Ruth. You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth here this evening?
Sure.
Great, go ahead.
I came initially because it kind of feels like we're getting nickel and dime to death with this project. And I was concerned about the ADU being changed into a retail environment where you've got basically 2,000 square feet of of retail now, because our understanding was that the tasting room was going to be in the barn and not that it was going to be a second edition that was going to be put on later. But now listening to the presentation, it appears that there's a lot of elements that are being brought up that are not in this description. This description simply talks about converting an ADU to a testing environment, a tasting room or whatever. Now we're talking about changing hours. We're talking about different parking. We're talking about having special events. We're talking about the reservation. It's totally different animal than what's described here. I happen to, pay attention to what's on the town website, so I was aware of it, brought it to the attention of some of the neighbors, but they weren't aware that all of these conditions were going to be brought up and discussed. And that doesn't seem appropriate, or would I say legal, to be doing that, to be bringing forward things that were not put into the public domain for people to digest and come and listen to and respond to. I don't really understand the parking situation. I do know they're trying to do a nice job of what they're doing, but it's a small area on a very busy road on a bad hill. There's room for 10 cars probably to park there. You've got 10 cars there. Somebody wants to leave. They got to back out onto Beaver River Road because there's no room to turn around. It's right next to a playground. I don't think it's appropriate next to a playground to have large wine types of events personally. And not for nothing, I don't want to live next to a special event venue. I've already got that across at Deep Pasquale Farms. That's on Route 138. I can understand it. They're trying to make a go of it over there. I sympathize with them. But I don't want to listen to people's music in my backyard. I don't want to have a massive retail operation in the neighborhood. So we're talking both ends of the spectrum. 1 minute we're saying there's only going to be, 10 cars. The next minute we're saying we're going to have a special events with bands and bonfires and parking for 120 cars. That's my piece.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Cullion,
Just come up to the microphone, please.
sorry.
That's okay.
Alan Cullion, Richmond, same neighborhood.
I'll just swear you in, sir. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth?
I swear to tell the truth, but the truth to help me God.
I believe it. I believe it. Go ahead.
All right, so basically, I'm gonna go over the same things that you just said, but has any of you been down there to look at the property? So I see one person shaking their head,
Yes.
2 people.
I've done a drive-by.
Okay, so you know that that road is essentially a cut through for Route 2 to 138. Agree? We don't have to agree, but that's what it is. So my question is, how do the cars get in and out of the property safely? That's what you need to be thinking about, right? The speed limit's 25. I'd be hard pressed to find a car going 25, other than my own. So if you're backing out on that road, you've got a serious safety violation. Supposed to back out. The other thing is the park, the children's park. You bring that into the whole picture. The land they're talking about parking on is not buildable. So I don't know how you park. Special events. I think we've already given them what they want. They asked for a boutique winery. They have that. Now you want to bring weddings in. It's not the same animal that you guys originally approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Any member?
No
folks
one
online?
online.
Mr. Chair, I can assure the board and speaking with my client, while we don't have an engineered plan, there is no intent to have parked cars backing out onto Beaver River Road. In fact, we'd be even putting up signage that would address that. There'll be more than sufficient The goal is to have more than sufficient turning radiuses, so anyone can back out of a parking spot and then pull out onto Beaver River Road, at first being able to visually see both directions.
What did you mention earlier, Mr. Sadette, regarding licensing? There was a question about whether we had jurisdiction.
I defer to the board and your solicitor, whether that is something that you have the right to authorize under your zoning ordinances. If you do, or if you don't, we'd ask that maybe an opinion will be going to the town council. We've already submitted a business license to the town council, or the license sitting as a licensing board.
Yeah, I think, and I'll fall on the sword for it. I think anything with licensing goes before the town council.
Yes.
And then there was also in the materials mention of deviation from the noise ordinances. I think that's town council.
That was,
It's not
they're
us.
tied, they're tied together, certainly.
I'll ask our solicitor how, and it doesn't appear there's anybody, actually, do we want to close the public hearing?
I'd like to ask one question.
Sure.
So why don't you ask for them to get an engineer to show you the picture of how you're gonna back those cars up without backing up on the road? How you're gonna manipulate 11 cars in the area that they have to park?
Well, how it works is the applicants, they present their case. I can't tell them how to present their case or what evidence would satisfy the board. They do that. We'll close the public hearing, and if that's acceptable to the board, so be it. It may not be. It may not be to me, it may not be to the members next to me. But if
You
there's
understand-
if there's a response to that question, by all means. And I didn't mean to cut you off. Go
You
ahead.
understand what I'm asking? Right, so when you do a parking lot,
Sure.
you put all the lines in, you figure out how many cars you can and how they're gonna move. Have you seen that for this parcel?
No, I don't believe we've seen that. We've heard testimony, as everybody in the room has, that up to 60 cars have been accommodated for a wedding. Mr. Sadette, any response?
60 cars in that lot. That's what you know.
I guess I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, if we're gonna be addressing that issue before the licensing board, then we're happy with our existing 11 parking spots. We have no desire to change that or ask for a modification of that. We would simply be, we went through extensive testimony the last time about that, about what the signage would be, about where the access point is, and visually being able to see that, and that's why it's located where it is. So I guess we're simply asking the board for an expansion of the hours and the ability to utilize the existing interior space in the existing home for part of this existing operation.
So
I have a question.
you might beat me to it, Chris. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Sirdike. The existing hours, that was granted by this board or the town council?
That was granted by this board as part of the approval of the zoning.
I think we put a condition of approval as to certain hours.
Yes.
And that kind of dovetails into my question, Chris, and maybe we can kind of talk it out. We granted a special use permit a few years ago. This is, even though it's kind of colloquially being referred to as a modification, there is no such thing. It would be a new special use permit.
That's correct.
So while we're in conversation referring, well, we've already granted this, I think we have to consider everything in granting or denying a special use permit, craft a decision that incorporates everything. And that's where it's a little, this one's wonky, that how it presents, no fault of the applicant, it's just how it came before us.
You are correct. It's a new application. It's not a modification. There is no such thing. Mr. Sirdike addressed that. He's correct. Your interpretation is correct. So this stands on its own merits. Now, they have a special use permit right now. This would be a new one. Does that answer your question?
It does. My only curiosity, without having parsed through everything, is, and having been one of the 3 members on the board last time, I'm trying to put aside what I learned before versus what I learned tonight. And do I have enough information to make a decision one way or the other? Because I think I'm relying on my old memory from the last time they were here.
You can use personal knowledge in your decisions as long as you express that in your findings of fact, right? You can go by the property and view it for yourself. That's personal, firsthand information. You have knowledge of something. You can bring that out, but you should bring it out.
Yeah. is there a motion to close the public hearing? Oh, sure.
I just a process question. If you close the public hearing, where does that leave us in terms of understanding where you go next?
But that allows us to then discuss it as a board.
Okay.
And that
then do we
discussion-
reopen the public hearing after that?
It's not common. It can happen if we determine that there's a need for that. I
I
don't
guess I'm
know.
just confused on the items that were included here, for converting the ADU to a testing room, which I, as a neighbor, I don't agree with. I think they should stick with their original plan and what they were originally approved for. But what about all of the other things? What about the extension of hours? What about,
So there's no, and that's what we're talking about. There's no extension of anything. They're starting fresh. They're asking for a special use permit, almost forgetting about what's been granted in the past or overlapping what's been granted in the past.
okay, I'm probably not being very clear. Why can they bring up something now that they did not advertise as being a content item for the public hearing?
So give me,
This does not say anything about extension of hours. This does not say anything about having special events. This does not say anything about increased parking. This simply says, we would like to take our ADU unit and turn it into a tasting room and build a handicap bathroom. It does not address any of these other items.
sure, I have
So-
member of staff.
So as a neighbor, she would have received the abutters notice, and why she's saying that is in the abutters notice. This portion that you see is all that was given to the neighbors that was going to be discussed.
And I did not get an abutters notice.
You didn't.
Nobody did. Nobody in the neighborhood got an abutters notice. I found this online.
They went out, I have them.
I did not get them. Al did not get them. My other two neighbors did not get them.
Do we have the receipts?
I have them upstairs.
That they went out.
Just a second.
Did you get any green cards? Dan?
Right here.
Let me check.
Statute now.
We should have.
He's going upstairs.
They don't,
You want to-
they don't have to share.
Hold on. While we're waiting, want to take 5 minutes?
Let's go off the record for a couple minutes while.
Take a recess for 5 minutes while staff goes and looks into, hopefully answering, no, it's Ruth, Barrington's question. Did I get it right, Ruth Barrington?
You did.
All right.
Thank you.
They got rid of that, the state got rid of that.
What's
I'm
that?
pretty sure the state got rid of having to send registered certified mail.
I think it's, the statute, is it just?
It
is
just has to be first class now, yeah, it just has to be first class now.
Some
That's-
folks-
So,
Yeah.
which I don't think they should have got rid of, but they
Yeah.
did.
Let's see what she's got.
Actually, I'd be willing to bet she doesn't have anything, because this is right, when this happened is when the state got rid of, this is one of the first ones.
Really?
When they changed the ruling. The legislation.
Did she say that? And Beaver Road? Beaver Road. So that's where she lives.
Yeah.
And they here as well.
Malcolm, if you got
And Beaver.
him. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
Justin, how are you?
I'm well.
Good for you.
Doing well. How are you?
Hanging in there.
Sorry to miss.
You missed, McDonald's application.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Also, I didn't miss much of this one.
No,
No.
no, it's way too back on the record.
The voting times?
Well. What you mean to?
Yeah.
Could be.
So here's my receipt that was sent.
You travel?
That's okay.
Yeah,
But I
that's the
sent
first.
26,
Yeah.
which is reflected here as well. So this would have been within
And
the
at 2:30 in the morning, drive to Atlanta.
Yes.
Spend the day with an account drive home that day.
These were actually sent. I can get you
Even
these.
a sound good. Not knowing for their conversation.
Neighbors. Cause I sent it to the Westerly Sun. Oh, geez, that's cool.
He's reading us. Here's my account list. Wow.
A lot of boats out there.
Right now I'm at 193 accounts. And they just signed a new one for me, basically on Lake Erie, right at the Ohio, or at the Pennsylvania, New York border. It's 65,000 miles.
Literally.
Blue or, yeah. Yeah, and then after work, I'll be down at my mother's in Jersey on Saturday. Tomorrow I'm sleeping.
It said that it was sent 2 weeks ago. I just can't find the specific, I mean, this was printed,
Let's, wanna go back.
Yeah, we can go back on the record.
okay. I sent the abutters notices the same day I sent the ad to the Westerly Sun. And I received the tear sheet back from the Westerly Sun the following day on April 2nd. So I believe that it was sent on April 1st. For the abutters notices, and there were 6 people within that 500. Within that ratio,
Okay,
200.
so where notice went out more than 14 days ago. We went to all the abutters required by law.
And it was posted on the Westerly Sun for April 8th, which was the 2-week mark as well.
Ms. Hawkins, you have copies of the list,
I do.
and you showed me during the break copy of the receipt for the mailings that you sent with the payment.
Yep, so I sent a copy of receipt to the Dales in regards to 6 letters that went out, which is $1.50 per page, and the 6 postage for 64 cents a piece. So they were mailed out per I had that.
Just get your money back.
All right, so, yeah, I mean,
The statute requires only first class.
Yeah.
based on the new law. So it's that they're sent. Fortunately, not that they're received, but sent.
So you have 6 people who did not,
These
6 abutters who did not receive any
Saturday.
communication.
Well, this is what,
That's
I don't think that's odd, that's
You know that for a fact?
Yeah, yeah.
Are they here
tell the
tonight?
people. I'm sorry,
They told you?
yes.
ma'am, for your property, what is the property owner's name?
Ruth Barrington, Ralph Murphy, Patrick Murphy, 10 Beaver River Road.
Yeah. So I don't have her on my list as the 200 square feet.
Where,
Ralph.
on their property.
Do you bought that property or the extra property though? It might be the extra lot.
Perhaps.
Yeah, so you might be out of the 200 foot from what they're,
I always got letters before, why would I suddenly stop getting?
So who did the 200-foot radius map? Who prepared that?
Me, I prepare my own because then I do the mailers, like it has the labels that you can print off. So to get that PDF, I have to create it off of the
yes.
GIS mapping?
Yeah, which I can show you how I did that, but that would have been how I did it.
Understood.
You put the map. I think.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
think there's two lots of venue lots.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So the relevant one is gonna be 9.
Yep.
So I'm gonna talk, just kind of think out loud here. It seems, I'm looking at the application, it looks like the subject lot is 20-09. What is 20-10?
That's the second lot we own.
Okay, but not where these, not where
Not
you're
where the
seeking a
winery
special
is.
use permit, okay.
Correct.
And it looks like read me some of the names where the notices went to. Do you have that in front of you, Susan?
I do. They're actually right behind you.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's not the right parcel. It wasn't 20, it's 18 Beaver River Road.
20.
Yeah, 2009.
No,
Yeah.
that's right.
That's correct.
No, the subject parcel
Oh,
is,
yeah, so it's different. You got 27 Beaver River Road. For some reason, just type in 18. Click on it, click on click on that. There you go.
So those are your 7 and 2 of them were duplicates, so I only sent one.
Does that list that we're looking at now on the screen match the list of mailings that you sent out, Ms. Hawkins?
Yes, it does.
And this is what I had thought. The abutters for 20-9 may not be the same abutters for 20-10 because it's obviously a different parcel. So it appears when you run an abutters list, Ms. Barrington, who do you own the property with? Or who owns the property where you reside? What was the name?
Myself, Ralph Murphy, Patrick Murphy.
Murphy. So I'm seeing Ralph Murphy showing up when we run an abutters list for 2010, lot 2010, but not 29. So he's kind of a tweener there where he doesn't, or and Ms. Barrington doesn't constitute an abutter for 2009, but they are 2010. So everything seems to be in order then.
Yeah, because they're looking for the.
So we were butters
Just
the
on
last time,
20
but
that.
not a butters this time.
Or somebody, or it was sent either
It's a
in
different
error
clerk.
or being overly cautious, sending it to folks who may not have legally needed it. But what is before us is, we had a requirement is abutters within 200 feet are noticed. It seems like that happened. You, it doesn't appear, are an abutter within 200 feet. That doesn't mean you don't have rights, but it doesn't
course.
necessarily mean that you receive
We'll explain
Mail
why I
notice.
did not get a notice.
correct.
But if the notice says the same thing as this, my point stands.
And yeah, I'll ask, Chris, what are your thoughts on the notice? I mean, it's a notice saying that the applicants are seeking a special use permit. You don't have to have every request or specification in that. Are there any legal concerns from your perspective as to the notice, or is it something that you want to look into? I'm not gonna put you on the spot.
I haven't seen the actual notice, but what I think is, what you should focus on more would be the specific requests being made, right? And your ability to determine those specific items. So sharpen your focus on what's exactly before you that you can decide on. Right, like maybe not the licensing,
Yeah, we can't touch that.
not the noise. I mean, there's other things, events, whether or not there's enough parking. Right, that's gonna be fall more towards the zoning official. Right, you were saying, can these activities be done? The scope of them, that's different. But can these particular activities, the use of the ADU, wine tasting, can those things be done? The ramp, can those things be added, right? I think That was in the application specifically. And in the bottom, and in the explanation, it gets into a lot of the other ancillary items that I don't think are really before you. How would you see that? what I just said?
I would concur in that regard. We're asking for a new permit. A lot of those ancillary issues relate to the existing permit and the interrelation of the two in our explanation. More so, we would not object if you were to put a limitation on the hours.
Right.
And those things, but those are not necessarily things that needed to be advertised to that.
Because in playing that out, special use permit, it's a use. It doesn't necessarily mean, oh, you have to seek specific hours when you advertise an application. We may, as a condition of this, trying to fulfill our requirements, put conditions on it, which may be hours. But the applicant saying the hours that had previously been granted upon further consideration don't necessarily work. So if the board is going to consider some hours, maybe you consider something. Okay.
And I just want to make clear that right now, under the existing permit, the applicants are allowed to use the lower level. We're asking to be able to use the lower level and the upper level of that portion of the structure.
And for a tasting room. Sorry, the tasting room at the lower level.
And the tasting room is already at the lower level. We were going through the construction process, there was some, quite frankly, financial concerns about fire, having the residential and the tasting room stacked. Because of fire code requirements, it just became cost prohibitive to build it out that way. As well as the change in the applicant's family dynamic where they no longer had someone living in an ADU to passing away.
So as proposed, would you continue to use the basement as well as the main level, or is it either or?
Yes. And that's coming from the applicant directly.
Sure. All right, so we figured out some of the legal issues with abutters notices and the like. Any questions that have come up from members of the board before we consider closing the public hearing?
How long will it take to complete construction of the barn? Rather than, and I'm hypothesizing here, how much time would be involved? And I understand there's money. I'm trying to compartmentalize things. How long would it take to complete the barn so as you did not have to use the ADU?
Again, going back, I know we were talking about the old special use and the new special use. In the old special use, this was discussed. What we envisioned is that we would open, and if sales and an interest in the winery justified the expansion, as you can imagine, building a 40 by 60 post and being built, barn is going to be quite expensive, especially the way that we kind of envision the way it would look. So that is dependent upon whether or not the winery is economically successful.
Okay.
If it is, if we hope, I mean, our plan was, and I believe we wrote in the original special use, is 2 to 3 years is what we are envisioning. That would be what our target goal would be. That's right. In the meantime,
Any other questions?
So is this here,
Go ahead, Bill, please.
is this hearing still concerning advanced authorization for a limited number of winery and hospitality events? Are we still?
No, we
concerned
talked
with
about that. We took the position that that's a town council matter. That's what we're
Okay,
here.
all right, so, okay.
Any other questions? All right, that being said, no members of the public have their hands raised. Nobody in the audience virtually. All right, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Discussion. Say you. All right. I mean, going through the weeds, it's at its core, and I'm looking through my notes here. It seems like this is a request, it's a request for special use permits to conduct this winery activity in the basement level as well as the main level. So it's all happening internally on this property. There was a few abutters who had concerns about parking and whether people had to back out into the road. But on the other hand, we heard testimony that they can accommodate a 60-car wedding when regular business would be the 11 parking spots would be sufficient, but more like 8 or 9. Nor did I hear evidence as to any other than, I don't want to say speculative, but concerns about cars backing up into the licensing and noise levels. That has nothing to do with us. As far as hours of business,
That would be licensing as well.
I mean, we delved into that, and I don't remember the specifics as to why that came up last time, other than a concern from the butters.
It applies to you in this sense because it goes to noise generation, it goes to traffic generation, it goes to the ability of Beaver River Road to have a service level that can handle the additional cars based on whatever the additional access will be from the patrons, however many of them are going to be. So it does have a bearing in that sense. Also, the time of day matters, right? If it's at a time of day there's not a lot of traffic, that may factor into your decision. So the hours do matter in that sense.
So did I hear right where, they're not yet open? yet?
Correct.
So if they're not open, how? the hours?
What I heard in the testimony was that they, a couple of years ago, requested hours, we granted certain
Yeah, I
hours.
remember that.
But now they've looked at similar wineries,
Right,
vineyards
yeah.
as well. We're
Yeah.
kind of buttonholing ourselves
Yep.
or putting handcuffs on ourselves
Yep.
because other folks are doing business between these hours and
And we're not.
we're not even allowed.
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, days of the week.
Right, and I think Mr. Dale said we don't necessarily want to operate during all of those hours, but we want the flexibility to be able to if need be. Yeah, you mentioned flexibility.
I know.
Joe, could you bring up that aerial view of the property again?
Yeah.
Where we can possibly see the parking situation?
This is the parking they've got.
Mhm.
This is the 10
Yeah, I was
extras they were talking about.
looking for aerial view.
It'll clear up in just a second.
There we go.
There you go.
Overflow parking. You can click on the outline of it.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, see the line. Show you those driveways.
Yeah, those are the one at the bottom.
So is this the
Darker,
is this the
that's the
overflow?
one, that's the overflow one. That's the one that's listed as the overflow.
Yeah, okay.
The one right in front.
Anything in the wetlands would need DEM permission, so. The buffers.
Mr. Chairman. Wetlands at the front of the site there, so that's not a constraint.
You got a 50-foot perimeter. That touches the road.
On the, I don't believe that's on this parcel, I think that's.
It almost touches the building, the new building. This is a
Yeah, all of the 11 parts that we're proposing, the primary part will all be in front of the building up here.
Oh, I think they're talking overflow parking.
Well, I think that's on the map that they have, the second driveway. Proposed is
Right in front of the house.
over here is overflow, which would be to the south of the bottom of the picture
No, I
there.
was talking about they had events or anything.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
we're dealing with that with the council.
Yep.
So-
Mrs. Zangari, you had something?
There was talk about overflow parking on another lot. That has nothing to do with this. Whether or not the applicant is parking off-site on another lot, that's an issue for them to get approval for.
Yep.
You're not granting that approval for that. They may or may not get that through a different avenue.
Yeah, shared parking or so on, so forth, something along those lines. yeah.
So that's not right.
So can you point out where the 11 spots currently are?
Right.
Is it this one?
Okay.
Yes.
Where the hand is.
So
Should be it right there.
This is kind of a little old, so it doesn't
I-
actually.
I'm just trying to
It's just a
envision-
foundation there right now.
Yeah, I see trusses and things like that, so
Yeah.
I'm just trying to envision why we would have to back out onto Beaver River.
Well, that's what I was saying, like the new one, it shows that you can,
Yeah.
like, how it is now, you can tell the parking spots, like the ADA handicap spots and stuff like that.
And that currently is all asphalt as well, the whole parking area, so it's hardened as well.
I don't see why you have to back out.
That's what I'm trying to wrap my arms around.
And this one seems to me like we might want help of staff for a draft decision on, but to guide them with that, we would have to give staff some of our thoughts as to where we're at on it. What other additional concerns do you have for parking? Sure.
What are our hours of operation again?
Weekends.
Till what time?
Say that louder.
You have to, yeah, one at a time and speak up.
What would be the limitation on hours? Let me start that over. I'm looking at possibly if they're gonna continue into the dark hours, what kind of ancillary lighting might we require or need? I'm just looking at that aspect of it too. If we're already discussing issues with backing up in cars and things like that. Are we required to have any kind of lighting,
Well, I mean, that.
even if it's just decorative?
It's almost getting back into planning board stuff, so.
Okay.
That's, yeah.
Just,
The 10 to 5 are the hours? 10 to 5 are the hours. right
Okay.
now. And they
That's
will,
on weekends, and during the week, we're requesting that it be from noon to 5. So even in the winter,
you're just getting dusk. Okay, I'm just
very rational thought.
envisioning if I were driving in, what would I be looking for?
I mean, I'll jump at it. I mean, my initial thoughts are these are internal changes. My concern initially with the application was that this was going to be a significant expansion. And when I heard 60 cars for a wedding, I was concerned that that may be your everyday business. But that was made clear by Mr. Dale that that is not, that he expects the 11 permanent spots should be sufficient for their everyday business. In fact, he expects less than that, 8 to 9 cars typically, and maybe even less on a regular basis. When we initially heard this years ago, there was concern about 25 to 30 people and limiting it to 11 cars. The applicant's gone out, made parking spaces for that. And even when this property is at its absolute capacity of 60 cars, which it seems to be a rare occurrence, there's testimony that the police were informed of that beforehand, had patrols, and there were no issues. So what I was concerned about was parking, ingress, egress, but those concerns have been alleviated. So I don't have concerns. I don't believe we can touch licensing. I don't believe we can touch noise levels. If a board member wanted to consider hours as a condition, I'm open to it, but I'm not falling over myself to impose business hour condition, especially when I don't really have a rational reason to do it, that, oh, you have to close at 5 versus 6. I don't have evidence to say that there's any benefit to anybody by doing that.
I think the requested hours are reasonable.
Yeah, I do. But, I just,
So you would impose a condition of the hours as requested by the applicant?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
I agree on that.
Chris, can we impose for a draft? Absolutely. Great. Continue to a date certain?
If you want, whatever you want.
The fourth Monday of the month, so Why? Sorry, the calendar is not showing me the whole month of May.
You did 27. Okay.
It's Memorial Day.
May 20th.
5:20?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm available. You guys good?
Mr. Chairman, just if you could, so that that draft decision can be complete and can be comprehensive. Could the board discuss a little bit A1, 2, and 3? We spent a lot, you spent a lot of time on B3 and B2, but not as much time on A1 through 3. Maybe a little discussion that will in the decision draft and where you're all at on those criteria.
All right, so one would be the appropriate use will not substantially or permanently harm the appropriate use of surrounding property. I mean, in many respects, even though this isn't in use yet, it's already been granted. And it's not as though this quote unquote expansion, if it can even be considered that, it's a poor word, is external. It's all internal at this facility. So based on the findings that we already made with the prior special use permit, and I would incorporate that by reference, by the way, in our decision. I think that would create a clean record. I don't believe it would substantially or permanently harm surrounding properties. 2, neither the proposed use nor location on site will result in conditions that will harm the public's health, safety, and welfare. I think that would be for the same reasons. Again, these are internal uses of this property. Parking is going to remain the same as already been granted by this board, has already been determined to be not, to use a double negative, not unsafe. Based on both of your analysis, while looking at this, it doesn't appear that a regular use of 11 cars will require somebody to back up onto Beaver River Road or be forced to enter Beaver River Road in any way that's other than safe. But those are the primary concerns we've heard from the players: safety going in and out. And 3, the proposed use will be in harmony of the general purpose and intent of this title. The only concern I would have are these larger events, which is not the normal business hours, which are not what this applicant seeks for a special use permit, but would have to be granted on a case-by-case basis by the town council. So it's regular business of these 11 potential parking spots, all internal use, don't appear to not, to use a negative again, not be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the title. Does that help, Chris? Does that add a little more meat? Okay. So we'll continue to, Josh, what was the date?
20th.
May 20th, date certain continuance.
I will not be here. Justin, can you be here?
He wasn't here for the whole hearing.
That's my only concern.
Yeah, I cannot be here.
Are we limited to May 20th, or could we go to the date that we can agree
The
on?
next one's Memorial Day. That's a week.
Is this room available on, I mean, I'm not married to a Monday.
I would have to speak to town council before, the town clerk before I can officially say that we could do a different date.
The week of the 13th and the 20th, I will be out of state.
Mr. Chair, you could
Actually, from the 13th until after Memorial Day.
Yeah, that's fine with the applicant, that's fine with me. Okay.
Well, but again, you could
Yeah.
do it with 4 if you want.
Okay, that's, again, I'm seeing yes, that's acceptable to the
Yeah, I'm
applicant.
okay with that.
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
When are you looking?
May 20th. You're away.
Yeah, I'll be.
Does that work for the rest? Because he
You
came in
guys
late,
said it.
does that work for the 4 of you?
Yes.
Yes, great. All right, so motion to continue, I'll make the motion to continue this matter to May 20th. Staff was kind enough to offer to put together a draft decision for us to help us on that day. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that brings us to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.